up, we speak to Sia Gentile, president of Not in My Name movement, on fake and poisonous foods and products. The North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria has ruled that the recording of Bongani Ntanzi allegedly confessing without his consent violated his constitutional rights. And President Cyril Ramaphosa has called for an immediate cessation of hostilities in the Israel and Palestine conflict. A very good afternoon. If you've just joined us, we're coming to you live from our studios here in Johannesburg. Welcome to Week in Review. Now, this is the program where we review some of the biggest stories to come out of the week. I'm your host, Mfundo Mabala. Leading our bulletin this hour, residents of Vredefort in the Free State are outraged following the deaths of two siblings, aged 3 and 4, who allegedly consumed expired snacks. They're calling for shops belonging to foreign nationals to be permanently closed. The Consumer Protection Unit raided and confiscated expired goods at the outlets of the immigrant shop owners. Aphumelele Mdlalane followed the story.
Foreign national shops have been closed down in the area. The death of the two siblings fueled the anger of the community. Goods such as Schedule 2 medication, unlabeled food and illicit cigarettes have been confiscated. Residents say it's unfortunate that government's actions follows the tragedy.
These people must leave. They must leave Vredefort. We no longer want to see these people. Lu and my sister, you can check. Boma Jaka Tata, we don't know what is this. This but Babataka the product, it's more. So we are not apologetic. We are saying these people, they must leave. They must go back to refugee camps. They are not belonging here.
It's a very terrific tragedy. We didn't expect that, but we knew these people, their syndicate will end up like this eventually.
It's sad that it had to get to this point. It's really sad that we had to lose two little kids, but it does feel like it's a sacrifice, but at least the rest of the community will be safe from here on.
The Department of Small Business say they are looking on amending the act to allow them to enforce harsh punishment.
An appropriate sanction will be issued out. It will depend on the extent of the transaction. Sometimes a case gets opened where the police will investigate further and the person will appear in court. The docket will be handed over to NPA.
The grieving family is still in shock as they are preparing to lay to rest the siblings on Saturday. Residents held a prayer where the children took their last breath. Aphumelele Mdlalane, SABC News, Vredefort.
Now, Gauteng Police is currently launching the provincial Safer Festive Season operations. The launch comprises of various phases, the first one being the destruction of counterfeit goods. Earlier, Police Minister Bheki Cele said the police can't allow criminality to rule the nation.
We can't allow criminality to rule and run the country. And we had to be more serious about this situation you see here. I knew that we are dealing with the counterfeits, contraband, illicit kind of trade and goods. But until I was briefed this morning, the seriousness of the matter on this kind of illicit trade. I know with the Zamazamas that there is big monies involved there, the under collection or the money that is robbed when it comes to the SARS and the fiscal. Here we were briefed this morning. We are sitting around 3 billion illicit trade here. All these things you see around you, there are counterbands and things that are not supposed a counterfeit kind of brands. Not only here, inside there are other big boxes that carry this situation. As you listen, you realize that most of you journalists will understand that there is a fiscal bloodbath at the present moment, if I can call on this one, as the Minister of Finance will be giving us what's going on the 1st of November. and you begin to realize how these things are happening. It's a situation where the country and the nation will be robbed what is supposed to be collected on their behalf by the structures that work on that when you see such things. Police would arrest and bring these things here, SARS would, Customs would, and it's kept here, designated by the Department of Trade and Industry to be the premises to keep that those things. Some of them, they stay longer because until the trial goes, and you will find that they need to be kept until the trial finishes. We're dealing with 3 billion of that kind only in Gauteng. That is Gauteng only, the 3 billion. It's not in the country. We are consolidating the country, and we believe that when the time comes of the country consolidated, the different provinces, of course, Johannesburg will be the center, but you know that Cape Town and Durban, those are harbors, and those are places where these things could be received and then distributed to come here and even in the neighboring countries. The figure on the illicit mining is put on about 40 billion loss to the state coffers. So if you follow and you listen to that, you realize that we are facing a bloodless economic coup d'etat here, where the illegal people, where those unscrupulous people are taking over the economy of the country. We are going to be giving the line of march, but maybe it would be unfair to do so here before is properly briefing to the economic cluster and to the JCP, even the National Security Council, because some of these matters will become some issue of security. Kids are dying because of illicit kind of trade and things that are bought from spaza shops and all that kind of stuff. We are working together with many of our sister departments, but we are very thankful to the brand managers, brand experts, of which the attorney there, the legal person is representing them. We're working very closely with them to assist us to identify these issues. We're also working very closely with SAPRA as we do these raids, because there is a lot of illicit medical items that are sold in the detriment of the health of kids and the population of South Africa in general. So it's important that we all work together on the matter.
Now, for more on this story, we're joined by President of Not In My Name, Sia Gentile. Sia, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Fundo, and thank you for having us.
No, it's a pleasure to have you with us this afternoon. Just listening to that package, it shows that clearly that this particular problem is one that is receiving serious amount of attention from the police. How widespread is this problem?
It's a very, very serious.
Apologies, Sia. We just wanted to assist with the audio there. Let's quickly just take us to an ad break. More news on the other side of this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. So we're in conversation with President of Not In My Name, Sia Gentile. Sia, we were speaking just a bit earlier after watching that particular package of the Minister Begitele there, speaking about how much attention has been given to this issue of counterfeit goods. How prevalent is this particular problem, seeing with the number of deaths that we've been reporting on?
Thank you so much once more. So this is an experience of everyday South African. That one, the Minister with all due respect, is a very useless man generally. And they've done nothing about this particular issue. This has been going on for a very long time. It's fortunate or unfortunate that only now that some of these cases are being reported and South Africans are taking it upon themselves to actually go out and inspect these goods and shut down some of these shops, which is something that we are advocating for, because this is a national pandemic that, in fact, if you would have seen some of the allegations that were made by some of these Pakistanis and Bangladeshis saying that there is a fee that is paid, and then part of that chain includes members of the SAPS, allegedly, and some of them include members of the Department of Home Affairs to secure asylum-seeking documents. So there is a long value chain there of people who are taking money from these people, and as a result, it is the people in the townships that are suffering most.
But then if we look at this whole problem following the death of those young children, is it actually a problem of poisonous goods or here goods that have reached the expiry date but continue to be sold?
It's a case of both. In some of our visits to these suppliers and tuck shops, especially in some parts of Gauteng, around Pretoria, some of the goods are actually expired, but what these guys do is that they just remove the tags and then they manufacture new tags which have got new expiry dates, which would obviously be, later on. And then they've got a place where they stock in bulk, which is why they managed to take over the township economy, whereby they stock in bulk, and even from the places where they manufacture and stock these things, they come from there not being or either already having been expired, or they manufacture their own. These guys are manufacturing Grandpa, for an example. They make their own Coke, they spray, sanitary towels, they manufacture fake condoms. Now, those things have a direct effect on the health of ordinary South Africans. I don't even want to mention the meat and the food and some of the items that are consumed by everyday South Africans. So it goes both ways, actually. The main problem here is that we've got a government that refuses to deal with this issue by enforcing existing laws, a government that has got within its ranks corrupt people who continue to benefit from these syndicates that pay monies to the Department of Home Affairs, pay monies to some members of the SAPS, allegedly. And then also they marry our sisters. Apparently they marry you guys and then they get papers to continue doing business in the country. So South Africans are left with no one but themselves, and which is why we are saying that South Africans must start getting up, going into these places. There's no government that is coming to save us, but we'll deal with them next year during the elections. But for now, we must stand up and go into these shops and look at these things. Should they not comply, we must close these shops and peacefully we must help them pack and they must leave South Africa.
I want to take you to the whole conversation around the township economy. They were lauded, this was a big one, they were lauded for their ability to shop in bulk, and that's how it was said that South Africans have failed in the tuck shop industry or township economy purely because they wouldn't work together and decide to buy in bulk. And now that this has all unraveled, clearly one would say that perhaps those South African tuck shop owners probably need an apology, that the bulk buying was in fact fake or counterfeit goods. They were able to reduce the prices because of such.
Of course. I mean, they were not, in fact, they were not coming together, put money and go buy in bulk. They actually manufacture their own goods, which are not safe for human consumption, which are some of them...
South African tuck shops were told to model this business business plan that they had.
You get the point. And again, our government has been complicit in this. So the leveling field has never been, the playing field has never been a level one. South Africans have always had a back foot. And it's so unfortunate that every time when South Africans are raising such issues, genuine issues, we are told that, one, we are lazy, we're incompetent, we've got people coming into the country taking over an economy while we are there watching. These people, they are well coordinated, they work together, they buy in bulk. They are not. Here in Krugersdorp, I think it is in Krugersdorp, where this Bangladeshi guy, this is the Pakistani guy who exposed the other one, because that's another issue. You have
reported on that matter.
Yes, Bangladeshis and Pakistanis in South Africa fighting for economic
particular market.
For the market in South Africa, while we have a government. So someone is somewhere sleeping on the job. So it has never been a fair assessment or analysis to say that South Africans have lost that sector because of that. It's actually because of crime that has been that has been abated, that has been left unattended by government, by certain different departments of government. And, right now, as I'm speaking to you, the people, the community in KwaThema, they're out on the streets fighting against this particular issue. And guess what? You have the very same members of the South African Police Services going out to protect these people from having their shops shut down by the members of the community. So it seems as though everyone
But in that instance, the police must ensure or protect those particular people, those individuals in that instance, because it must be all done within the ambit of the law.
The point I'm making is that it's always the police protecting the other people and never South Africans. We just came out of the hard lockdown during COVID-19. The police, the members of the South African Defence Force were going around scoping and donoring black South Africans. It was us who were supposed to be abused. It was us who, everyone must be protected against South Africans. But each and every time when we are raising genuine and legitimate concerns, the police are suddenly out there to go and protect those other people. But our children are consuming counterfeit goods. We are eating food that is not fit for human consumption. We are engaged in a biological warfare. And actually, we must call it genocide. We are dying each and every day. And I dare say that there are many people who have been dying in the townships, and we did not know what has been killing them. Something says to me, it might as well be that some of the mysterious deaths that have been, somebody was fine, the next morning, the next day he complained with something and then he died. These people have been killing us, and I wish to also call them terrorist groups because they carry so many weapons and so many guns. Where do they take those things if they are here to conduct business fairly?
But realistically speaking, there is a problem of the cost of living being very high. So in most of these communities, they're able to come in and be supported purely because Abogogo don't have enough money to be buying from these other more expensive retailers. So that speaks of a bigger problem. And if we were to bring in the South African spaza shop owners, they would again place the prices of, for instance, cool beans a little bit higher than what we've seen. So how can that problem be dealt with? Or what are the community members telling you now, since you've been engaging with them? What are they saying? They want these foreign nationals to leave KwaThema, but what is the solution? Are they looking to then have these South African tuck shop owners come back into those spaza shops and place the prices a bit higher?
Yeah, no, we must embark on a very robust and serious campaign whereby we capacitate black South Africans to take over again the township economy. And I think we're very much capacitated to do that. And it would be unfair for us to expect black South Africans who are operating within the township economy to have the same prices as these people. Remember, I must filter in the stock price, and then I must put in a markup to get profit, this and that. And then the other guy is not going through all that process. He's just going there in their own place where they manufacture.
Should there be a subsidy of sorts from government here if they want to stimulate the township economy? They now need to stop just speaking and acting.
There should be. But until we deal with these dodgy characters in our townships, even if they do that, it won't assist because the competition will always be unfair. They must shut down these production houses of these counterfeit goods. They must make sure that they strengthen the existing laws that are there to deal with migration issues. They must make sure that all illegal immigrants, people who are in this country legally, they must leave, whether they are Bangladeshi, whether they are Pakistani, whether they are Zimbabwean, Mozambican. We cannot continue to suffer like this, and we cannot continue to sacrifice black South African children also at the altar of Pan-Africanism. We need to take a stand and say this is enough. We need our township economy, but then these ones must go. Communities must continue to move around and check these things. Those who don't comply, they must leave. Because we've been saying to the Department of Home Affairs, Department of Health, there should be inspectors. They are not doing that.
But perhaps with the assistance of the police in this instance, because you don't want a situation to turn violent.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to believe that community members also don't want to be arrested for anything that is now illegal, perhaps beating up some of these foreign nationals. So it would probably be advisable that the police are there and they observe when this is being conducted.
Of course, and so far we've been trying to do that. As I've said, in Pretoria and Mamelodi, there was no violence. In Delmas, they did it peacefully. In Delmas, in Mpumalanga, and the police sometimes don't want to cooperate. The Tshwane Metro Police Department, we have been to their offices, I don't know how many times, engaging them. Please assist us, come and ensure that everything is done within the prescribes of the law. They have not been coming forward to. So it will be incorrect to create an impression that we are pushing anarchy, we're just going and then go this way and then we're promoting looting. We're not doing that. We have engaged the police department, everyone that we feel that is relevant. But remember, these very same people allegedly are compromised because I received another message. Someone was saying to me that the police are not going to assist you with this thing because they are getting protection fees. They are getting money from these guys to protect it. So, and there are other also sects of our communities whereby there are groupings who are also getting money from these people in exchange of protection. So there are those dynamics, and we can argue, me and you, about this and that. I do believe that this is the right time that ordinary South Africans should say, before I buy this thing, let me check if it is still within.
But are we seeing civic education around these SABC approved products? Because many people are left to their own devices to distinguish whether this is an authentic product and this isn't. Because if you put two beans here, do you believe that most citizens can distinguish between one that is a counterfeit and one that is original?
Sister, when you're hungry, in fact, you don't even have time to look at this and that.
Therein lies the problem.
Therein lies the problem. And I do agree with you that we need
greater education.
We need civic education. But remember, now in the township, the last thing I want to hear about is you telling me that this is the difference between the original stone and the fake one. This is the difference between cooking oil that is proper and cooking oil that I'm hungry. I've been living in poverty for the past 30 years of my life. So it's a mixture, it's a cocktail of issues that really need to be addressed. We're trying. That's what I'm going to say to you. We're trying in our very little spheres of influence to educate whoever we can. And to say that we have never been hostile towards anyone, towards these people. But you don't come into our country and then you want us to eat poisonous food. If we refuse you saying that we are xenophobic or we don't like people from other countries. That thing must not be tolerated. South Africans must reject it, must reject everyone who is standing with these people, and we must reject a government that continues to subject us to this kind of things.
Sia, thank you very much for your time. That was Not In My Name's President Sia Gentile speaking to us. To this story now, the North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria has ruled that the recording of accused number 2, that's Bongani Ntanzi's alleged confession without his consent, violated his constitutional rights. Now, as a result, the presiding judge has found that the audio should not be admitted as evidence. State witness, Magistrate Vivian Crinier, earlier testified that she did not inform Ntanzi that she was recording the session. Ntanzi and 4 others are charged with the 2014 murder of soccer star Senzo Meyiwa.
This court is enjoined to declare evidence which was acquired unconstitutionally to be inadmissible, as I'm doing about the very recorder of the Section 217 interview from its beginning to its end. Because if this court allowed such an egregious flouting and flagrant flouting of accused number 2's constitutional rights in terms of Section 35(5), it would not be in the interest of justice to do so, because accused number 2 would then be continuously subjected to a trial unfairly. when we know that the Constitution engages us and enjoins us to prevent such an exigency. And also, in the view of this court, that would bring the administration of justice into disrepute. Consequently, this court rules that the audio recording should not form part of these proceedings. It is inadmissible.
Now, joining us for more on the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial court proceedings is Alton Hart from the University of Johannesburg's Law Clinic. Mr. Hart, good afternoon, and thank you very much for your time. Quite a lot taking place in court this week, but one would say the ruling on the inadmissibility of the alleged audio confession by Bongani Ntanzi is quite the talking point. Your views on just that ruling we heard?
No, indeed, it's a talking point, but obviously one needs to look at how was that audio acquired? And obviously, with our past of having apartheid and how people's rights were violated, it's of the essence that courts would look at how information was obtained. And the violation of your rights that's contained in the Bill of Rights is one of the most important things that courts has to always be awake to. And in this instance, what the magistrate, and I'm pretty much disappointed in how she conducted herself, because she's an officer of the court. She was supposed to know, if I'm recording this guy, I need to alert him that I'm actually recording him. And the mere fact that they want to now sneak this evidence in through the back door, it's unconstitutional. You need to, and a magistrate is not a layman that doesn't know the law. She knew the law, so she had to inform him, even if she say it was for her own personal use. Why, if it was for her personal use, maybe to just complete her forms? Why today, nearly 4 years later, she's still in possession of that audio recording, if it was for personal use? So those type of things, it's like you ask yourself, even then, if she kept it so long, what was her intention in recording this guy? Is it actually, was she working with the investigating team? Did she even see that he was tortured and she sort of half turned a blind eye to it? In the back of a normal South African's mind, these questions start toiling there, and it makes you think about a lot of things.
But we remember that the state had initially committed that they will not be utilizing the audio, so it wasn't about turn on their part. But I must say, when just listening to commentary since yesterday, many legal practitioners were a bit concerned that she is au fait with the law. And in this instance, as a magistrate, she would be a custodian of the law. So at the very least, that particular aspect of notifying the accused that you are being recorded would have been something that she would have communicated. But I'd like for us to take a few steps back to the line of questioning by Ntanzi's legal counsel, Advocate Mgomezulu, when engaging Magistrate Cronje. He took issue with the fact that the pro forma document included that Cronje was a magistrate, which the advocate says would have induced the accused into making a confession. That one, I don't know if you can enlighten us a bit here, because when you look at Section 217, subsection 1B of the Criminal Procedures Act, it basically indicates that confessing before a magistrate is not out of the ordinary. So can you just take us through that argument that the advocate was trying to put forward here?
And remember now, the advocate is a little bit with his hands in cuffs. Because remember, now the police officers is saying that this statement was made free voluntarily. So, and this guy was not sort of half tortured. But also he put to the magistrate to say, listen, yeah, this guy was tortured on 4 different occasions. And that, for me, I need Advocate Mgomezulu was just supposed to go in to say to her, if a person is suffocated with a plastic bag and he appears maybe 3 hours later before you, would you be able to see it? No, she can't, because she's legally trained. She's not medically trained. And that is the type of things that he had to just cast doubt on what she's saying, because she was working with a form there. And obviously what Advocate Mgomezulu went into is even to sort of half test her. And I could see that the magistrate is getting angry at him. And he said she mustn't be emotional. She must give the court answers. He was just supposed to test her more.
But that element of stating that just your designation would have induced the accused into making a confession. He went on to say, Advocate Mgomezulu went on to state that he would feel comfortable that he's speaking to a magistrate who has no involvement in the overall case. But I'm just trying to get clarity. Where was he going at that particular argument? If one identifies themselves as a magistrate and it's written in the document where you are now about to fill in that questionnaire, is it problematic that you are a magistrate?
No, indeed, because the Act makes provision that magistrates or justices of peace can actually take these confessions. Because obviously if you're a constable, a sergeant or a warrant officer and you take down a confession, that thing is inadmissible somewhere from the get-go unless a further confession is made to a magistrate or a justice of peace. So that I could not see properly, but I could see what he was trying to do. He was using tactics to get the magistrate sort of to become upset. And normally when people are upset, they don't necessarily think as to how they answer questions, and maybe you could have solicited, and that is just tricks of cross-examination. And I could not see that there was something irregular in the magistrate saying, I'm a magistrate. It actually says, okay, she informed the accused that she's a magistrate, and she also informed the accused that she's not part of the investigating team. The only thing that might be there, the trick that might lie in there for the accused person, is to say that I'm not part of the investigation. Maybe the accused now drop his guard, and then you would spill the beans and give the nitty-gritty of everything to the T. So that is maybe where I can see maybe something.
That's where he was headed.
Yeah, but with just the mere fact that he attacked her, or he sort of tried to wrestle with her to say, you were not supposed to say to her she was supposed to say she's a magistrate. Even if it's a he must tell that I'm a magistrate, and also say that I'm not in part of the investigating team. Maybe that accused person might also come out and say, but they actually tortured me. These guys outside the door tortured me. But also them being present, being the part of the team that actually investigated the crime. They were supposed to get people that was unrelated to this investigation to actually go take him from custody and bring him to the magistrate, because accused number 2 already said that one of the SWAT members that actually took him somewhere for these, they were somehow at the arrest, and when he was taken to these various venues that he was sort of tortured. So for me, it's maybe there, but it's at this time, the part, it's 50-50. Where Ngomezulu is going, it will become apparent on Monday, because on Monday he needs to wrap up. Then one would see where does it actually slot in exactly what he wanted to get out of the magistrate.
Then the words freely and voluntarily. Much was made of their absence in that document. Take us through the importance of this particular wording, that even if one were to depose to an affidavit, that you must indicate that this was done so freely and voluntarily. How important is it?
No, that is important, because that is on which our constitution and the rights in terms of Section 35 is based on. That you have the right to remain silent, you have the right not to self-incriminate you. So if it means that these things are not freely and voluntarily made, it means that you are actually incriminating yourself and you are unduly influenced. So that freely and voluntarily, it also knocks onto the clause that you must not be unduly influenced. So these things is all captured in that right as it's set out in Section 35 of the Constitution. And to say that freely and voluntarily, it must mean that nobody sort of moved you to say, I want to tell the truth. And you must be of sound mind. Sound mind means then you need to also comprehend what you are going to now divulge to a justice of peace or a magistrate can land you into trouble, and this trouble can be serious, and these repercussions that can stem or flow from your making available of information or tendering, let me use that word, of tendering information, must be explained in full extent in a language that you understand. You must be able, and they did say that there was an interpreter, but I could not get from the evidence if the interpreter actually interpreted in Ntanzi's mother tongue, which is Zulu, that this is the repercussions for what you are about to do now.
And then this particular...
Think they might go that way.
How much of an impact will this ruling have on the state's overall case at this point? Is all lost? Because we do know, as I stated a bit earlier, that initially they had no intention of using the audio in the first place.
No, they had no intention, but I see the reason why now the state is now sort of trying so hard to get these confessions in. Because in the confessions there is certain, and obviously we're just now looking at the procedural aspects. Was the procedural aspects met as per Section 217 of the Criminal Procedure Act. Once that if the court comes to the conclusion and say, okay, it has been met, then it's admissible. Then we would delve into what is written down in that statement. And that's what they actually need, so that they can actually now come and use that part to actually cross-examine accused number 2 and accused number 1 to say, but why did you say you were involved and this is how Senzo Meyiwa was killed, those type of things. So to give strength to the state case. And the reason why the state is now battling so much is I think that they can see that their case as it stands now, it's a little bit on a rocky path. They can't guarantee that they will get a conviction as it stands now.
Mr. Hart, thank you very much as always for your time. That was Alton Hart from the University of Johannesburg's Law Clinic talking to us about what transpired at the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial this week. More news on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, Advocate Koleka Gcaleka has been given the green light by the National Assembly to take the reins as the country's new public protector. With 244 votes in her favor and just 12 against her, she now has to wait for President Cyril Ramaphosa's sign-off on the decision. Meanwhile, the Democratic Alliance says it's not ruling out the possibility of a motion of no confidence in National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula. Now, this is following what happened in the House during the vote on the new public protector. The session broke down when DA MP Glynis Breitenbach, in her debate on the recommendation of Advocate Gcaleka for new public protector, referred to allegations that Gcaleka had slept her way to the top. Disorder erupted when the DA rushed to Breitenbach's defense after Mapisa-Nqakula evicted her from the House. The Speaker and the DA have since expressed their worry at how the sitting played out, with both sides looking at parliamentary recourse available to them.
National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula says she was taken aback when called a liar and a disgrace.
I'm not angry. I was a bit stressed when the insults were going on. But I then had to look at the person who was making these insults to me.
These insults were hurled at her after she asked DA MP Advocate Glynis Breitenbach to withdraw remarks she had made about an alleged intimate relationship Koleka Gcaleka had had with one of her previous bosses, suggesting that this was how Gcaleka had secured positions.
And I have just ruled that Honorable Breitenbach should withdraw her statement. Honorable Breitenbach, will you please withdraw your statement? I will not. If you will not, Honorable Breitenbach, you may leave the House.
The DA leadership were not happy with this call.
Madam Speaker, you are being as dishonest today to this Parliament like you lied about George's salary. You are dishonest, you're a liar, you do not follow the rules of Parliament, you are a disgrace, you should not be sitting there.
Steenhuisen says his outburst about the Speaker being a liar relates to the salary of Secretary to Parliament Xolile George. The Speaker says she will leave these allegations up to the structures of Parliament to deal with, but she says her concern at his response runs deeper than that.
What I do know is that he showed his signs of first being a sexist, being a racist, and of course, a man who has absolutely no regard for a woman.
Steenhuisen says a debate of this nature has to be robust and the integrity and suitability of the public protector candidate has to be thoroughly interrogated. He said with Gcaleka being a candidate for public protector, everything needed to be on the table. And he believed the Speaker's decision to evict Breitenbach was unlawful.
And before I was even a quarter of the way through my point of order, which was a valid point of order around her misuse and abuse of the rules, she was shutting me down. Parliament has to be a robust arena of debate and accountability. When you have a Speaker that acts for one party and in the defence of the executive and of the party, you have a huge problem in Parliament. I never thought I'd see the day where I actively said I would love to have Baleka and Mbete back in Parliament.
He says accusations of racism and sexism are the last refuge of those who want to shield themselves from scrutiny and accountability. The DA says it's consulting with its legal team and will make a statement on Monday on the steps it plans to take. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.
To this story, labour unions at the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, that's Prasa, are consulting their members following a revised wage offer from the employer. The South African Transport and Allied Workers Union, SATAU, and the United National Transport Union, UNTU, say after lengthy discussions, the rail agency's management has proposed a new revised offer of a 5% salary increment, which it says is a final offer from its initial 3%. The two labour unions at Prasa entered fresh round of wage talks with the employer this week. They're demanding a 15% wage increase. SABC News economics reporter Katlego Lekhodi has the story.
Labour unions at the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa say they are looking at championing the interest of their 15,000 members who want to get the best out of the latest round of wage talks. They say negotiations have been dragging for 7 months.
The management has tabled a final offer of 5%. Unfortunately, other demands fell off the table at this moment. SATAU is going to consult its members and workers throughout the country whether to accept the revised offer or not. If the workers are rejecting the final offer, we will then go back to the drawing board with the management.
The United National Transport Union, UNTU, the majority union at Prasa, has slammed the delays in concluding the current wage negotiations timelessly, describing the talks as extraordinary.
These are extraordinary negotiations because in terms of the constitution of the bargaining forum, we're supposed to be starting the negotiations for the next year. However, we are still negotiating for the current financial year. And that means now, if we don't reach agreement anytime soon, we cannot even start on the wages for the next year. So hence I'm saying it's a bit complex and it's extraordinary because at the end, we are in October where we're supposed to negotiate for 2024, but we are still negotiating for 2023.
SATAU says the new 5% offer does not include non-financial benefits that are still being negotiated with the employer. Following the current consultations with their members, the unions will meet the employer next month for feedback.
We will continue engaging with the employer on those outstanding demands, such as housing allowance and medical aid, as we are also starting the 2024-2025 financial year negotiations in November. If we still do not agree on anything, it is then that we'll start the process of embarking on a strike. However, I do want to say that going on a strike is not our priority, but sometimes the management prefers negotiating on the streets. We are going to meet with the management again next week to give them a feedback, and then we will know a way forward from there.
The unions say they anticipate a fruitful, speedily resolution, maintaining that the 3-year multi-wage agreement at Prasa lapsed in March 2023 and their 15,000 members have since been in limbo amid the high cost of living. Katlego Lekhodi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has called for an immediate cessation of hostilities in the Israel and Palestine conflict. Ramaphosa has been addressing world leaders gathered in Cairo. This is for the Summit for Peace, expected to discuss the escalating war between Israel and the Palestinian group Hamas in Gaza. Ramaphosa has also called for an immediate release of hostages, the lifting of the siege on Gaza, and the opening of humanitarian corridors so that basic necessities such as food, medicine, among others, can go through to affected areas.
We gather here united by our deep concern at the unprecedented conflict that has engulfed Gaza and Israel, and our distress at the depth and extent of human suffering. As South Africa, we hold the firm view that the attack on civilians in Israel and the ongoing siege of Gaza and the decision to forcibly move the people of Gaza, together with the indiscriminate and cruel use of force through bombing, destruction of infrastructure, that these are violations of international law. More than that, these attacks are an affront to our common humanity. We call for an immediate cessation of hostilities. We call for the release of hostages, the lifting of the siege of Gaza, and we also call for the opening of humanitarian corridors so that basic necessities such as food, medicines can go through, so that provisions of human aid that are required for the people of Palestine can go through. We also call for a United Nations-led negotiation process towards resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The international community has a duty and a responsibility to support peace and to create favorable conditions for negotiations and dialogue. As South Africans, we can relate to what is happening to Palestinians. Our people waged a brave and courageous struggle to achieve their freedom and were subjected to untold suffering, just like the Palestinians are going through. But we had courageous leaders who were able to set aside their differences and sued for peace, and were able to bring the abhorrible system of apartheid to an end. So we call on all parties to exercise restraint and on all state actors to desist also from providing weapons to either of the two sides to this conflict. We are concerned that the response of the Israeli government to the attack on its citizens will further deepen a conflict that has engulfed the region for many decades and will make the attainment of a just and lasting peace even more difficult. We are also concerned that this conflict could start spiraling out of control and engulf a number of other states in the region. The only way to bring about peace is the fulfillment of the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinian people to human rights, to dignity, and to statehood. This is in line with the decisions that have been taken by the United Nations that guarantees statehood for both Israel and Palestine based on the 1967 borders.
We shift our focus to this story now. Thousands of chefs around the world celebrated International Chef's Day on Friday, yesterday, which was October the 20th. The day was celebrated or created by Chef Dr. Bill Gallagher, former president of World Chefs back in 2004. The day acknowledges the hard work and contribution to the culinary arts. This year, the South African Chefs Association released a song called Singabapheki, loosely translated as We Are Cooks, to commemorate the day.
From the township to city lights, our flavors are tasty high.
Ringing in this year's International Chef Day with the song.
Yes, hello, my name is Ngasi, and you are listening to the SA Chef's Anthem, Singabapheki.
For this talented 28-year-old singer-songwriter, composing the song and being part of the project has been a dream come true.
The International Chef's Day celebration is essentially a day to commemorate the past, the present, and the future of everybody who is within the culinary space, be it top head chefs down to a home cook.
The anthem aims to unite chefs, cooks, and culinary experts.
I believe, honestly speaking, it's very important to follow one's passion. And if your passion happens to be deep within a kitchen, deep within food, spices, baking, anything to do with that space, it is definitely worth journeying on.
The global celebration was established in 2004 by Dr. Bill Gallagher, a UK-born South African and former president of World Chefs. For this local chef, the day is about showcasing their skills.
People realize how important it is to be in the industry. It's not about cooking anymore. It's not about, yes, it's about cooking, but you must have skills. You must have patience. You must have discipline. Without discipline, without patience, without skills, you are a winner.
And stress the importance of skilled professionals in the industry.
You can't survive without food, to be honest. Yeah, yes, we do have the religion like fasting, but yes, it reached certain stage where you have to stop it and eat. So feeding someone, it's a skill.
Local chefs have hailed the South African culinary space as diverse and rich in history, and this has contributed to shaping the industry over the decades. Nozintombi Mia, SABC News.
To this story now, entertainment establishments in and around Durban say preparations to host thousands of rugby enthusiasts this weekend are well underway. South Africa will lock horns with England in the semi-final of the Rugby World Cup currently underway in France. Townships around Durban have also been hit by the World Cup fever, and locals say they'll come out in their numbers to support the Springboks in their match tonight.
For popular hangout spots in Umlazi, big sports events boost business. And ahead of one of the biggest and most crucial games for the country, these venues have prepared red carpet treatment with big TV screens and bright areas.
With the games being held here, a lot of people just want to come. It's not even about what music or what DJs are going to be here. It's about the vibes and the energy. Sports is better watched in groups. So when we have these types of tournaments going on at our establishment, it really helps with the economy.
Sports fans say such games foster social cohesion all around.
I've always been a rugby supporter, but I've even got all my family supporting it now as well. And I think it does, because everyone gets together, has a bra, watches the rugby. It's very inclusive and it's a wonderful thing.
It's a spirit of Ubuntu, right? Bring everybody together, you know? I mean, one world, one nation, that's what we're about, you know?
Others say the much anticipated encounter between the Springboks and England has all the hallmarks of producing fireworks from the first whistle.
Noma kanjani siyayithatha le yethu siyayidefenda le cup here.
In past encounters between the two nations since 1906, South Africa has won 27 times, while England triumphed in 16 games. Two of the Springboks' 3 World Cup titles were against England in the finals in 2007 and in 2019. Vusi Khumalo, SABC News, Durban.
And that's where I leave it for today. We're back tomorrow. Have a great afternoon further. Goodbye.